Hey, all right, shalom, shalom. Hey, first and foremost, before I get started, as always, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory unto Yahweh Bashim Hawashai, Wahavar Chakwadash, which Yahweh is the name of the Heavenly Father. Yahweh Shai, that's whom this world ignorantly calls Jesus Christ, is his true name, and the Chakwadash, that is the Holy Spirit. And I also want to give double honors to the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone, and salutations to all you brothers out there. And I don't really have anything in specific to get into, but I just wanted to do a quick video on exhortation. All right, pretty much just keep pushing, keep fighting, keep improving. That's something that we got to keep doing until Yahweh Bashim Yahushai comes and saves us. Okay, we gotta show to the Lord that we're serious about this this change, right? These requirements that the Lord has for us. Okay, so as the scripture say, which I'll get in a second, right now it talks about what being that new man, that new creature, right? Putting off those old deeds. That's something that we got to do on a day-to-day basis. Okay, and every person has different things that they need to work on, right? They have different flaws, different weaknesses. Okay, you see? So everybody has a different walk in this, right? It even talks about how we have to bear our own cross, our own burdens. You see, the Lord made a tailor-made path for us, a tailor-made cross or burden for us to carry in this thing, you see. And it's up to us to acknowledge, like I said, our weaknesses, our faults, and improve. That's the point of this whole thing, is improvement. Okay, but let me get this, as I mentioned about the new man, the new creature. Okay, let me get that. This is 2 Corinthians chapter 5, and I'll start at 17. Therefore, if any man be in Yahweh Shai, he is a new creature. Old things are passed away. Behold, all things are become new. All right, and you see, when you become that new man, old things have to pass away. Okay, you might have been a hothead, in the world. Now you got to learn patience. You got to learn how to, maneuver properly. Okay, you might have been a brother that, was, not in shape. All right, okay, now you got to go out there, start working out, start, maybe possibly training if you can, because I like to always mention, in our culture, our people were warriors. Okay, I like to mention that a lot, because you look at our forefather Abraham. He actually taught his servants how to fight. Okay, go read Genesis. It talks about that when he was about to save Lot right beforehand. Okay, you look at Samson, you look at King Saul, King David, his men under him. You look at the Maccabees, the apostle Peter, right? He sliced a man's ear off with precision too, because in order to slice somebody's ear off with the sword, where it didn't basically cut his head, that shows you a lot about the apostle Peter. And if you have spiritual eyes to see and spiritual ears to hear, that he's also King David, which was obviously a mighty warrior. You look at and he's also our forefather Abraham as well. Okay, you see. All right, that's a whole nother topic within itself. But just to throw that out there, if you didn't know, maybe one day I'll get into that, because I believe I've done lessons on that before, a long time ago. But I don't think I've done anything. I'll say this, I know I haven't done anything on that as of recent. Maybe one day I'll touch on that in class. We'll bring it out. All right, but get back on topic though. Our people were warriors, so you can't be slothful, you can't be sluggish. Being overweight, it's not good, man. And that affects your health too. Okay, brothers are having issues with with their heart, with their breathing, whatever the case may be. And I'll say this, a lot of it's caused because you're not healthy, okay? Is the elder brother out here, Jeremiah, or maybe Murph, if, maybe some of you know him as Murph, okay? But his Hebrew name is actually Jeremiah, all right? But the elder brother, he made a point one day when a couple brothers, they were they had their herbs and basically healthy healthy products, right? And he made a point. He said, "What's Jake?" He got mad because he said something along the lines of, "What's the point of taking all this if Jake ain't working out?" And he was right. Okay, because those things go hand in hand. You got to have a good diet, and you got to be working out. You can't just do one thing. It's not going to be as effective. Now, yeah, things may work a little bit, but if you want things to be to reach its full potential, yeah, you got to do both. All right. And let me get that real quick, because I even mentioned the diet, right? Let me get that real quick. Let me get that. It's in the book of Sirach. This is Sirach 30, and straight to the point, 25. It says, "A cheerful and good heart will have a care of his meat and diet." So that's another thing too. Hey, you brothers, you got to take care of. I mentioned that take care of your health, but you have to have a proper diet in this thing. Okay, got brothers out there that are eating terribly. Eating a bunch of fried foods, processed foods, eating out too much, eating too many sweets, and you're wondering why you're having all these issues. You're still overweight. You got that that beer belly, so to speak. Right? You're getting gout, high blood pressure, all these things. Because like I said, because your diet's terrible. And a wise individual is gonna, be mindful of what he's intaking. Okay, you see. Like I like to tell brothers, this truth isn't just about cursing out Esau, cursing out the black woman, the Hispanic woman, right? Cursing out these people are part of the alphabet community. It's much more to this truth than those things. Now, of course, that's a part of it, but you got to do things outside of that, outside of the of you making videos, outside of you going to camp, outside of you going to class. What are you doing on your day-to-day basis? Okay, like I said, these are just a couple things that I talked about. Hey, some brothers, they need to learn how to deal with women better. Because I was mentioning that actually in my last lesson. I was getting on our women, but I made a point about us men, how look, you can't necessarily be a lion in your house, man. Okay, you got to remember that these women are the weaker vessel. They're not going to be like a man. They're not going to be up to par. They're not going to be at that level. Okay, you see. And you have to take that into consideration. And see, these things, they help you learn what? Patience. It helps you to learn to be merciful, to be pitiful. Just like how Yahweh Bashim Hawashai is to us, right? See, Jake's got to get more spiritual with things. You always got to remember, you know, Yahweh Shem Yahweh Shai, you know, he sees us as a woman. And didn't we mess up? So with that being said, yeah, our women are going to mess up at times. Now, of course, hey, there's a time and a place for everything, right? You know, there's a time for you to, you know, curse her out, rebuke her. You know, you got to be a man, lay down the law, no doubt about it. But at the same time, hey, there's, you know, there's other situations where you got to, you know, build her up, you know? Okay? You know, you got to encourage her. You got to guide her. You see? All right? Now, it's just some things to think about, you know, while walking in this truth. All right? You know, there's a lot to this thing. There's a lot to it. It's a very complex thing that we're in. And you see, at the end of the day, the things that we do, the things that we you know, the trials and tribulations that occur in our lives, all these things are to make us a better man at the end of the day, you know. And let me get that. I think that's in Sirach. The 5th or the 2nd chapter. Yep, this is Sirach 2:5. For gold is tried in the fire, and acceptable men in the furnace of adversity. You know, Lord is putting you through the furnace of adversity. It also talks about in Isaiah the furnace of affliction. You know, the Lord wants you to go through all these different situations. So you can really gain what? More wisdom. Okay? You could be the creme de la creme, the cream of the crop. Okay? Top of the top, basically. You know? We're not supposed to be average men. You gotta remember, hey, we're about to be the next rulers, the next judges. You see? The men that are in authority. All right? And the Lord's not going to give it to some simpleton. Somebody that's on a low level, you know, that has a low vibration. Nah. That's not what the Lord's about to do. He wants to give it to top tier men. All right? Top tier men. You see? All right? And that's going to require a lot from us. Remember that. That's another thing too. Hey, you got to make sacrifices in this truth. Okay? And a lot of them. Yes, you know, you're going to have to sacrifice your time. Yes, you're going to have to sacrifice money, opportunities. Hey, look, you're going to have to sacrifice your pride, your ego. You know what I'm saying? Okay? Because the Lord, you know, he wants this from us. He wants our undivided attention. See what I'm saying? Because I always say this to the brothers, look, everything else in this world is on the back burner, okay? Yahweh Shem Yahweh Shai is the thing, you know, at the front burner, okay? The front of the line, see? All right? You always have to have that in your mind. And these things are going to pay off at the end of the day, too, you know. The Lord, because it says in the book of Hebrews, let me get that real quick. Always got to remember, the Lord is going to remember everything you've done. Okay? was that Hebrews, I think it's the 6th chapter. Salaki, hold up. Give me one moment. This is Hebrews. Yeah, it is a 6. How did I miss that? This is Hebrews chapter 6, and I'm gonna I'm actually gonna start at 9. This is Hebrews 6 and 9. But beloved, we are persuaded better things of you, and things that accompany salvation, though we thus speak. And that's something that I want to talk about too, real quick. Preach, teach, and focus on the things that are accompanying salvation. Because I'll say this: you got these other camps out here, right? You look at ISUPK, you look at IUIC, but in particular, I'm gonna say ISUPK, and even well, I don't even know, they're not really a camp anymore, but you can say, guys that came from Sakari and all that, they focus on what, these debates, basically irrelevant matters, all right, things that aren't dealing with, the building up of, the house of David. All right, these guys are getting into arguments with unbelievers. Getting on the next podcast to make a video. The only reason why they're doing it is because we know they're getting money. That's why the scriptures talk about what they do, things for filthy lucre's sake. All right. They want to get their name out there. They want to get X amount of money. They're able to sell merch, whatever. All right, but those things don't matter. You look at IUIC, they're telling you about, how to deal with your woman. Basically having, family counseling. Marriage counseling. What is it? Hey, the scriptures talk about a man and his maiden. Okay. Look, you don't need to intervene. Okay. In somebody's relationship, another man's situation. That's wicked as all hell. These guys intervene. Okay, and the next thing you know, that woman starts looking at the other brothers, with googly eyes. I'm gonna say it like that. All right. And that's how what adultery starts spreading. See, these things are irrelevant. They're not things that are accompanying salvation, All right. See? But let me get back to this. This is back in Hebrews 6 and 10. For Yahweh is not unrighteous to forget your work and labor of love, which ye have showed towards his name, and that ye have ministered to the saints and do minister. And you see, the Lord's not going to forget our work and labor of love. All right. So whatever we've been sowing, we're going to reap. Best believe that. All right. So all the things that we do is very beneficial. Okay. Very, very beneficial. And we're starting to see, I'll say this, how Isaiah 33 and 6 is really starting to play out. Now, it's always been, I'll say this because I always mention this. Now, of course, we always mention Isaiah 33 and 6, for, the time of, Jacob's trouble, right? But I always like to mention that Isaiah 33 and 6 is actually it has been helping us out ever since we've, come into this truth. Because it's giving us a sound mind, right? The scriptures talk about that in the book of, I think, 1 Timothy. I think it's 1 Timothy 6, if I'm not mistaken. I could be wrong, but I believe it's in 1 Timothy. It talks about us having a sound mind. The Lord didn't give us the spirit of fear, but of a sound mind. I believe it says some other things as well. But point being, though, is, we get that sound mind now. And that's because we have this wisdom, knowledge, and understanding. Okay? You see? Something that's very, very important to have, every day. Okay? Because you see our people, you know, they're crashing out. They've become, honestly, like rabid animals now. You look at a lot of these YNs, this new generation coming up. They've lost it. They'll kill somebody, right, at a fast food chain because they didn't give them some extra sauce. Now, this is not even a joke. I've seen some article where somebody got killed at a Subway. Some employee got killed at a Subway because he put mayonnaise on accident on a sub sandwich. You know, it's wild. But this is the world that we live in right now. Okay, you see. The point being, though, is, you know, what I wanted to touch on is how Isaiah 33:6, though, is really playing out right now. You know, we're seeing it more and more. Okay, because look, these people, they don't got answers. They don't have hope. You know, and the things that are around them, it's crumbling. You know, you really see it. Look what's happening. Seriously, just look. People are realizing that it doesn't matter if I, you know, vote Republican, if I vote Democrat, my life is still in shambles. All the jobs, okay, are starting to, or they have been, but it's getting worse. You know, they're not around anymore. The job market's terrible. Every time I turn on the news, there's a new war going on. You know, the government's sending all this money to the state of I'm gonna say it like that, okay? You know, they send it to the state of They send it to the country of you. You know what I'm saying? Okay, because you got to make sure you speak in code. Next thing you know, you get a strike. Okay, but you all know what I'm talking about. So these people are losing it. You know, next thing, you know, the other thing is, more ICE agents. You know, they're snatching up people. Whatever the case may be, you see. All right. So our people, they're taking L's out here. They're taking L's out here, man. It's only going to get worse. And you got, you know, in particular women, but it's you know, the men too. But you know, the women, they benefit more off these government programs. But hey, he's cutting these government programs, and then they're spazzing out. And get used to it, because look, Esau don't got time to feed you and those 5 kids anymore. Esau don't got time to house you anymore. Okay, he don't got that money. He's got a war to worry about. Okay, or wars to attend to. You see? Now this is why, let me get that real quick. Isaiah the 30th chapter. Okay, it talks about how you know, our people, they're going to be how trusting in the shadow of Egypt shall be their confusion and their shame, right? Woe to him that have gone down to Egypt, right? Let's get this. It's Isaiah 30:1. Woe to the rebellious children, which is talking about you Israelites, saith the Lord, that take counsel, but not of me, and that cover with their covering, but not of my spirit, that they may add sin to sin. And you see, that's the main reason why our people, all right, follow the ways of Esau, this beast system. Okay? Because they can do whatever they want. There's no rules and regulations. You know, there's no standard. So that's the problem. Our people, they want to be, you know, free to do whatever they want, instead of being obedient children. Okay? But see, what they fail to realize is, as the scriptures say, what? Ye have not forsaken me, but your own selves. Okay? See, the Lord doesn't need Us. We need Yahweh B'Shem Yahushai. Okay? And our people, they're in for a rude awakening. And it's only going to get worse. Because he's about to unleash Esau on our people. And I like to tell, say this a lot too, because, you have these other camps. They're like, oh, the white man's a bitch and, Esau's a bitch. Look, man, Esau ain't no bitch, bro. Now, of course, I'm loosely saying this. Yeah, we know he's a bitch, okay? But he's no bitch, bro. You got to remember, this is the Lord's left-handed side. And the Lord's going to use his left-handed side to punish the world, okay? He's the Lord's sword. You see? And you people are about to be in a rude awakening. It's about to hit you. Just watch. It's not going to be fun. Very, very soon. All the party and BS is going to be gone very, very soon. It's going to be what? Survival of the fittest, right? And look, the ones who are going to survive and be safe are the followers and believers of Yahweh B'Shem Yahushai. And you know what? Before I finish at Isaiah, let me get this real quick. In the book of Proverbs. This is the book of Proverbs, chapter 18, verse 10. It says what? The name of Yahweh B'Shem Yahushai is a strong tower. The righteous runneth into it and is safe. You see? Since we got the names of Yahweh B'Shem Yahushai, we got this wisdom, knowledge, and understanding. We got this faith. We've been put in the works. The Lord is going to protect us in that day. You see? All right? The Lord is going to protect us. Not a 2/3 that's been, running around, being, complete demons, man. Nope. Not happening. All right? You see? We're going to be good, man. You know what it is? At the end of the day, 2/3, they don't have a covering. They don't have protection. They don't have a hedge. Where there is no hedge, the possession is spoiled. Okay? That's in the book of Sirach. Actually, I brought that out yesterday in my lesson too. That's why a lot of these women are about to be smoked. All right, but let's get back to this. Isaiah 30 and 2 now. I'm going to read 1. This is Isaiah 30 and 1. Woe to the rebellious children, saith the Lord, that take counsel, but not of me, and that cover with a covering, but not of my spirit, that they may add sin to sin. They have walked down to go into Egypt. They have not asked at my mouth to strengthen themselves in the strength of Pharaoh, and to trust in the shadow of Egypt. See, they believe in, New Egypt, right? Which is America. They believe in the system, and that's why they're smoked. They're smoked, as the brother says out here. All right, the brother, the wild guy. All right, verse 3. Therefore shall the strength of Pharaoh be your shame, and the trust in the shadow of Egypt your confusion. Okay, and we're about to see that. More and more. How trusting in this place is going to be your shame, right? Your confusion. At the end of the day, what? Your downfall. Okay? You see? All right?
Chef Mike bought me a piece of ribeyes for the vacation one time. It wasn't the Lynn, it was the Lynn's ones, but they were Detroit.
It's like, yeah, just had to pass those guys. They're playing this. What is it, this golf frisbee or whatever it is? I don't know what the hell you want to call this exactly. It's a bugged out ass little game. But yeah, man, so point being though is our people, they're gonna be out here left to dry, man, by Esau. They're about to be in a bad predicament, real soon. Okay? And look, hey, it is, we like to bring out a lot out here in Chicago, especially the brother Yuana. He's been saying this for probably some years now, right? The elder brother Yuana, he says, what, our stock is rising as men of Yahweh B'Shem Yahushai. Because look, eventually that Isaiah, I think it's is it the 13th chapter or the 3rd chapter? I believe it's, is it 3 and 15? Isaiah 3 and 15? I know it's in the book of Isaiah though. It says what? That maybe it is 13, but it says that what a man shall be more precious than fine gold. See, we're about to be the hottest commodity ever. Because look, if you're basically, if you're not around a man of Yahweh B'Shem Yahushua that day, right, you're going to be through. And I'll say this, it's not just the females, okay? Because look, you got to remember, hey brothers, if you are a part of the, when I say the elect, I'm talking about the 144,000, you're going to be leading, you know, not just, you know, your women, you know, your children. Hey, you're actually going to be leading other families, okay? You see? You know, this is more than just a, you know, about you having a bunch of women. You're going to be leaders of you know, well, the scriptures talk about it, what right? Captains of 50, captains of 100, captains of 1,000, right? You're going to be leading, man. All right. You see? You're really going to be leading, you know, groups and groups and groups of people. All right, but I'll say this, you know, point being though is, hey, look, if you're not with the man of Yahweh B'Shem Yahushua or a man of Yahweh B'Shem Yahushua, you're gonna be smoked in that day, and it's gonna show, okay? And that's when the scripture also in what is that? Wisdom of Solomon, I believe the 5th chapter. It says, or no, excuse me, 2nd Ezra, the 16th chapter. It says, then they shall know whom am I chosen. Because look, Yahweh B'Shem Yahushua is gonna perform great miracles for us, okay? You know, divine intervention is coming for the men of Yahweh B'Shem Yahushua, the followers and believers of Yahweh B'Shem Yahushua. All right, but I'm gonna end this lesson. All right, but hey, you know, brothers and sisters, hey, just keep improving on things. You know, we work on, you know, whatever the case may be. You know. All right, you might have to be, you know, you might be in a situation where you're fighting your flesh, right? You know, you get tempted a lot. Hey, like I said, you know, some brothers, hey, you may have to start getting in shape. Other brothers, you need to calm down, control your temper, you know, control that spirit, as the scriptures say in Proverbs. You know, hey, some brothers, hey, you need to study more. Some brothers, hey, they start making more videos. You know, Jay, just keep leveling up, man. All right, but hopefully this was edifying and exhorting. And with that, I'm going to give all praises, honor, and glory unto Yahweh B'Shem Yahushua. I'm also going to give double honors to the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone. And salutations to all you brothers out there. Shalom and a Bible ball. Shalom.